Hello, my name is Rick Lomax. I'm from the Sustainable Development Unit. Today I'm going to talk you through how to use the Health Outcomes of Travel tool and specifically how to use the ambulance interface. This is the introduction tab, and to get to the ambulance interface you need to click the ambulance tab at the bottom. And this, on opening up the tool, this is what the ambulance trust interface looks like. First thing you need to do is to select the name of your trust, and all the trusts should be there in the drop down list. In this analysis I'm going to select all trusts, which is the sum of all the impacts of all the different ambulance trusts. In this interface, the baseline scenario year is fixed to 2015. The next four boxes are quite useful to track what you're doing and why you're trying to achieve. So record the name of the analyst, the date of the analysis that is being performed, and the purpose of the new scenario is really important so you can track what you're trying to assess. Next process is to name the different scenarios and select a year for them. So in this example, I'm going to select the scenario 1 as the actual baseline. I'm going to select the year to be 2015. What you want to do here is select the year you have the most amount of information for. Whether it's you've done some significant analysis on your fleet, whether you've got staff commuting information through a staff travel survey, use this year to give you the most robust baseline to work from. What we're going to try and model today is the rollout of electric vehicles in the rapid response fleet, and we're going to assume in 2 stages we're going to roll out rapid response vehicles over 40% of the fleet by, we'll choose 2019. It's really important here to create a business as usual profile for the same year. One thing the tool does is it models against projections from Department of Transport the changes to the average vehicle within the UK. By average vehicle we mean how fuel efficient it is, how many emissions it releases per the amount of fuel it burns. So it's really important to have a business as usual scenario for the same year, because you'll be able to directly compare the changes. In scenario 4, we're going to assume that the rapid response vehicle rollout is now at 100%. So all miles done by rapid response vehicles are electric ones. I'm going to assume in this analysis that will be complete by 2023. Again, create a business as usual profile for 2023. What you'll notice is the information starts to come through in the summary results. This is purely based on the name and the year you've selected for each scenario. What we need to do is to skip the results section for now and go to the data entry. So if you come down to part B, data entry, there's several different things here you can change and model depending on what you're trying to achieve. First things you can change is the number of people. So this is the number of staff within the ambulance trust, the average working days per FTE. Here's set as 230, but your analysis might be different. The average daily staff commute distance in miles. So this has been assumed from DFT information. You can change this if you've done some postcode mapping exercises to look at staff commuting distances, or if you've done a staff travel survey. You can also input information on business mileage. Now, business mileage for the ambulance interface is just grey fleet and movement of staff, not ambulatory vehicles, because there's specific vehicle data information below. So scrolling down, we've got a breakdown for each different type of vehicle. So you've got double crewed ambulance and rapid response vehicles, patient transport and other vehicles, etc. What you can do is change these mileage figures that are highlighted in blue, and also you can specify the type of vehicle in terms of fuel usage. So for instance, in the tool it will default assume that all double crewed ambulance vehicles are diesel. It will apply a average mix of diesel, electric and petrol for rapid response vehicles. Now what we want to do is to change these figures and model them, and we said that the rapid response vehicles in this scenario was going to be 40% electric. And the figures of input here are of the remaining miles against the same ratio here of diesel and petrol. Now what we're going to do in the other scenario we're going to model for 2023 was 100% electric rapid response vehicles. When you're changing these manually, you do just want to check that the sum of the different parts does equal the whole. In this analysis I'm not changing the overall volume of mileage. But if you've got some projections of what that might look like in future years, then please feel free to add those in. The next stage is inputting staff commuting modal share. So if you're looking at initiatives of how staff get from where they live to how they get to work, then these can be changed depending on the analysis you're trying to undertake. And you can also change the composition of car fleet fuel mix as well. You can also change the composition of business mileage and other vehicles. So if you change these figures, these are based on DFT projections for the average fuel mix and efficiency of different vehicles. If you change these cells here, it changes several of the different vehicle types, so other vehicles and UCS, and also the RRVs. So when you choose editing these, just be careful on what you're changing. What you can always do is, if you want to keep these, is just copy and paste the values. The other thing, next stage that is really important, what we've done within the tool is also attribute the health and societal impacts in terms of cost, death and quality adjusted life years from accidents. Within the ambulance interface, we've assumed the staff commuting has the average accidents per kilometre for the local authority or the local authorities in which your trust is located. But here for the patient transport mileage, you can put no data, which assumes there is no accidents related to the movement of patients within your trust. You can also select the local authority average, or you can also create a user-defined figure if you've got accident information available. In this analysis, I'm going to leave this as no data and assume there is no accidents related to patient transport mileage. Next section is also for business mileage, so non-movement of patients, the non-ambulatory business mileage, so when it comes to staff going to meetings or site visits. In this scenario, I'm also going to assume that it's no data and there is no accidents related to business mileage, but you've got the same functionality of applying the local authority average, user-defined average. If you're using this setting, make sure you put figures into these cells. But again, I'm going to assume there are no accident impacts from business mileage. So that's the entirety of the data entry done. It's relatively simple and straightforward. Next, you can scroll down to the detailed results. So this gives you a breakdown of the information for the different scenarios that we've named. And this is the results for patient transport. So you can see, for instance, between the scenarios we're comparing, the electric rapid response vehicles compared to the same year business as usual profile, there is a reduction in NOx emissions, and there's also a small reduction in PM2.5 emissions. The same for the further scenario where it's 100% rapid response vehicles. You can see there's a larger drop in NOx emissions and PM2.5. When you scroll down to business mileage, this will remain the same apart from the modelling of efficiency of vehicles over time. But essentially there's no difference between the two scenarios because we've changed on the input information around business mileage. And also got the staff commuting breakdown for each of the scenarios. Again, the difference between your modelled scenario and the business as usual here is the same because you haven't changed any of the input data. And then when you scroll to the back to the top, you can see here we've got the summary of results. So we've got the overall information in terms of mileage. They've stayed the same because we haven't changed those. The emissions have dropped significantly in the scenarios against the BAU because of the use of electric rapid response vehicles. And you can also see the drop in QALYs and economic loss. And you can see there is a small difference in these graphs when it comes to the granular detail of a small change in the assessment. And then using the detailed results below is far more useful. If you did change some of the other elements, so looking at transport demand by purpose and vehicles, so if we change some of the overall mileage figures for the different vehicle types, and this would change. The same with the modal share with the staff commuting. If we change those figures, this graph would have changed as well. And you can see the air pollutant emissions. Thank you very much. That's a demonstration of how to use the Ambulance Trust user interface. More information about how to use the tool and more specific information on the assumptions and how the impacts have been calculated is available in the detailed guide on the hot page of the SDU website.